The mighty Zambezi River burst its banks after relentless rains causing widespread flooding and chaos. In the midst of the disaster, lions escaped from a nearby reserve, sparking panic among local communities. These powerful predators roamed freely through flooded villages, adding terror to an already dire situation. Residents faced the dual threat of rising waters and dangerous wildlife seeking refuge and food. Rescue teams struggled to contain the lions and evacuate people to safer locations amid worsening conditions. This video reveals the harrowing events of that fateful day and the courageous efforts to restore order. You will witness how nature's force and wild instincts collided with human resilience and survival. The story uncovers the lasting impact on communities and wildlife after the floodwaters receded. Stay tuned as we explore the facts, the dangers, and the heroism that marked this unforgettable disaster. Make sure to like this video and subscribe for more gripping true stories from the wild and beyond. 1. The calm before the storm. The Zambezi region was peaceful before heavy rains began, bringing life to the savanna and plains. Residents enjoyed normal daily routines, unaware of the impending disaster that was about to unfold. Wildlife thrived as the river nourished habitats, supporting lions, elephants, and other creatures. The lion pride in the local sanctuary rested comfortably, unaware of the rising floodwaters nearby. Heavy rainfall upstream started swelling the Zambezi River beyond normal seasonal limits. Villagers noticed the river's surface creeping higher but hoped the flooding would remain manageable. Emergency alerts had been minimal due to unpredictable weather patterns causing sudden changes. Community leaders held meetings to discuss precautions but lacked detailed flood forecasts. Caretakers of the lion sanctuary conducted routine checks on enclosures with no alarming signs. The day dawned clear, but the storm clouds gathering upstream foreshadowed a catastrophic event. 2. The onset of flooding. As rain persisted, the riverbanks began overflowing, sending torrents of water into low-lying areas. Floodwater spread rapidly, inundating fields, homes, and the wildlife sanctuary surrounding the river. The sanctuary's fences were designed to contain animals but were vulnerable to fast-moving water. Caretakers scrambled to secure animals and prepare for evacuation, but time was limited. Lions paced nervously as water levels rose, sensing danger yet unable to escape their enclosures. Communication lines faltered as flooding damaged infrastructure, isolating the sanctuary from outside help. Villagers fled to higher ground, some helping transport essential supplies to emergency shelters. Wildlife began to seek refuge on small patches of dry land or tree branches as the flood advanced. Emergency services were overwhelmed, responding to multiple simultaneous rescues and evacuations. The flooding turned the sanctuary into an island surrounded by swift, rising waters threatening all life. 3. The escape of the lions. During the flood's peak, water pressure breached sanctuary fences, allowing lions to break free. Frightened and disoriented, the lions entered unfamiliar flooded terrain, struggling to find dry ground. Caretakers tried desperately to contain the animals but were hindered by rising waters and debris. The lions, normally territorial, scattered in various directions, causing chaos in surrounding areas. Reports came in of lions near villages and farms, putting both humans and livestock at grave risk. Authorities issued warnings urging residents to stay indoors and avoid lion encounters. The escaped lions' movements became unpredictable, driven by hunger and fear in the flooded landscape. Search and rescue teams coordinated efforts to track and safely capture the lions using tranquilizers. Local communities formed volunteer groups to assist officials in monitoring lion sightings and alerts. The event sparked widespread panic but also united residents and responders in coordinated efforts. 4. Human-wildlife conflict intensifies. The lions' escape escalated tension as people feared attacks on livestock and themselves. Livestock losses increased, devastating the livelihoods of farmers and herders dependent on animals. Nighttime became especially dangerous, with lions more active and villagers fearing for their safety. Some locals took measures to protect homes using makeshift barriers and deterrents against lions. Authorities increased patrols and surveillance to reduce incidents and protect both humans and animals. Conflict between humans and lions underscored the challenges of wildlife management during disasters. Education campaigns aimed to inform residents about safe behavior and reporting protocols. Despite efforts, several injuries and close encounters were reported, heightening fear in the region. Community leaders urged calm and cooperation to avoid rash actions that could harm lions. The crisis highlighted the delicate balance between conservation and human safety in emergencies. 5. Rescue operations launched. Specialized wildlife teams mobilized quickly, bringing equipment and tranquilizer darts to the area. Helicopters aided in aerial surveillance, locating lion groups stranded on flood-affected terrain. Boats navigated flooded rivers to reach isolated parts of the sanctuary and villages in danger. Teams worked day and night to safely capture lions and relocate them to secure, dry enclosures. Veterinary staff prepared medical care stations for injured or stressed lions after capture. Collaboration between wildlife authorities and local communities proved essential to rescue success. Difficult terrain and unpredictable weather slowed progress but did not deter rescue personnel. Communication centers coordinated real-time updates to optimize resource deployment and safety. International experts joined efforts, sharing expertise in disaster wildlife management and care. Public cooperation with authorities facilitated rapid reporting of lion sightings and incidents. 6. Environmental damage from the flood. The floodwaters damaged not only human settlements but also vital lion habitats in the sanctuary. Trees were uprooted and vegetation submerged, reducing food and shelter options for wildlife. Mud and debris deposits altered soil composition, affecting plant regeneration and habitat quality. Aquatic ecosystems faced changes as sediment and pollutants spread downstream with floodwaters. Displacement of smaller animals disrupted the food chain, impacting predators including lions. Restoration of the sanctuary would require extensive cleanup and replanting of native vegetation. The flood highlighted the vulnerability of ecosystems to extreme weather events intensified by climate change. Monitoring environmental impacts is necessary to understand long-term consequences for local wildlife. Community efforts included debris removal and reforestation to accelerate habitat recovery. Sustainable management plans were revised to incorporate flood resilience and emergency response. 7. Psychological impact on local communities. The flood and lion escape traumatized residents, causing widespread anxiety and fear. Loss of property, livestock, and personal safety heightened stress levels across affected villages. Children and elderly were especially vulnerable to emotional distress and required support services. Counselors and social workers were deployed to provide mental health assistance and counseling. Community meetings offered forums to express fears, share experiences, and foster resilience. Religious and cultural leaders played vital roles in comforting residents and promoting unity. Volunteer groups provided companionship and practical help to isolated and traumatized families. Media coverage brought attention to the human cost of the disaster, encouraging aid donations. Programs promoting coping mechanisms and preparedness helped alleviate some psychological burdens. The experience emphasized the importance of integrating mental health into disaster response plans. 8. Infrastructure and economic losses. Flooding destroyed roads, bridges, and power lines, complicating rescue and recovery efforts. Damage to farmlands and livestock resulted in significant economic hardship for local communities. Sanctuary facilities suffered structural damage, requiring costly repairs and rebuilding. The tourism industry, a key source of income in the region, faced steep declines after the disaster. Emergency funds were allocated to restore critical infrastructure and support affected families. Small businesses struggled to recover, with some forced to close due to flood-related losses. Reconstruction projects focused on building flood-resilient infrastructure to mitigate future risks. Government agencies collaborated with non-governmental organizations to provide financial aid and technical assistance. Economic recovery depended on coordinated efforts and sustained investment in the region. The disaster underscored the interconnectedness of environmental health and local economies. 9. Lessons learned from the crisis. The flood and lion escape revealed gaps in disaster preparedness and wildlife management systems. Improved flood forecasting and early warning systems are essential to protect communities and animals. Infrastructure design must account for extreme weather events, prioritizing durability and safety. Emergency protocols for wildlife sanctuaries need regular review and testing under crisis conditions. Training programs for staff and local responders enhance readiness for future disasters. Community engagement is vital for effective reporting and cooperation during emergencies. Integrated disaster response plans should balance human safety with wildlife conservation goals. Investments in technology, such as GPS tracking and drones, improve monitoring and rescue operations. Cross-sector collaboration between government, conservation groups, and local populations strengthens outcomes. The experience provides valuable insights for managing wildlife emergencies in flood-prone regions. 10. The road to recovery begins. Efforts to restore the sanctuary and local communities started soon after floodwaters receded. Clearing debris, repairing infrastructure, and re-establishing animal enclosures were top priorities. wildlife experts developed plans to rehabilitate affected lions and monitor their health post-crisis. Replanting native vegetation aimed to rebuild habitats crucial for sustaining the lion population. Community participation in recovery fostered a sense of ownership and hope for a safer future. Educational programs promoted awareness of flood risks and coexistence with wildlife. Long-term support from government and non-governmental organizations ensured resources for ongoing restoration efforts. Infrastructure upgrades included flood defenses and improved emergency communication systems. The crisis inspired stronger conservation policies and disaster preparedness initiatives. Recovery remains an ongoing process requiring resilience, cooperation, and sustained commitment. 11. Wildlife rehabilitation and care. Following the escape, rescued lions underwent thorough medical examinations and treatments immediately. Veterinary teams addressed injuries, dehydration, and stress-related illnesses caused by the ordeal. Specialized nutrition plans were developed to restore strength and support immune system recovery. Behavioral assessments determined readiness for reintroduction or permanent sanctuary housing. Caretakers provided enrichment activities to reduce stress and encourage natural instincts. Monitoring devices tracked lions' health and movements during the rehabilitation phase. Collaboration with international wildlife experts improved treatment protocols and care standards. Community volunteers assisted by preparing food, cleaning enclosures, and providing companionship. Mental health support for lions was prioritized to address trauma from flooding and captivity escape. Rehabilitation centers expanded capacity to handle increased demand from disaster-affected wildlife. Research into stress mitigation techniques helped refine rehabilitation strategies for future crises. Post-recovery, lions were gradually reintroduced to controlled wild environments to rebuild confidence. Safety protocols ensured no premature release into unsafe or flood-prone habitats. Success stories of rehabilitated lions boosted morale and public support for conservation. Long-term monitoring continued to evaluate survival rates and adaptation in natural settings. The rehabilitation effort emphasized holistic care addressing physical and psychological well-being. Funding and public donations were crucial to maintaining high standards of wildlife care. The experience strengthened networks of professionals dedicated to disaster wildlife rescue. Lessons from this crisis informed broader emergency preparedness for protected species. Rehabilitation remains a vital pillar in the region's response to natural disasters affecting wildlife. 12. Impact on other wildlife species. The Zambezi flood affected more than lions, disrupting numerous species within the ecosystem. Smaller mammals, reptiles, and birds faced habitat loss and displacement from rising waters. Aquatic life was stressed by sediment changes, altered water flow, and pollution from flood debris. Food chain disruptions affected predator-prey relationships and biodiversity stability. Some species took refuge in higher areas, leading to overcrowding and resource competition. Displacement increased vulnerability to disease, predation, and starvation among wildlife. Conservationists prioritized multi-species rescue and rehabilitation to preserve ecological balance. Data collection on affected species guided targeted interventions and habitat restoration plans. Local communities observed shifts in animal behavior and migration patterns post-flood. Environmental monitoring highlighted the interconnected impacts of floods on terrestrial and aquatic life. Rehabilitation efforts expanded to include smaller species and vulnerable populations. Efforts to restore wetlands and riparian zones aimed to support broader ecosystem recovery. Scientific research focused on resilience factors that enabled some species to survive better. Public education emphasized the importance of protecting entire ecosystems, not just flagship species. Funding programs incorporated multi-species conservation approaches in disaster planning. Collaboration between wildlife agencies and researchers improved coordinated responses. Long-term ecosystem health depends on integrated strategies addressing all affected flora and fauna. The flood underscored the fragility of ecosystems and the need for proactive environmental management. Lessons learned contribute to developing sustainable policies for disaster-prone biodiversity hotspots. Protecting diverse wildlife populations ensures ecosystem services essential to human and animal life. 13. Role of local leadership and governance. Local government officials played critical roles in coordinating disaster response and resource allocation. Leaders facilitated communication between emergency responders, wildlife authorities, and communities. Decision-making focused on balancing human safety with conservation priorities amid urgent crises. Emergency funding approvals supported rapid mobilization of rescue and recovery operations. Regulatory bodies adapted policies to expedite permits and approvals for rehabilitation efforts. Local leadership engaged community members through public meetings and information campaigns. Governance structures coordinated multi-agency collaboration, ensuring efficient resource use. Leaders advocated for infrastructure improvements and disaster risk reduction investments. Efforts included capacity building for local responders to handle wildlife emergencies effectively. Transparency and accountability measures strengthened public trust during crisis management. Post-disaster reviews involved leaders to assess response efficacy and identify improvement areas. Governance approaches integrated traditional practices with modern emergency protocols. Local authorities promoted sustainable development policies mindful of ecological vulnerabilities. Funding and policy initiatives emphasized preparedness for future climate-related disasters. Leadership recognized the importance of empowering communities to participate in conservation. Collaborations with national and international bodies enhanced technical and financial support. Inclusive governance fostered cooperation between diverse stakeholders for long-term resilience. Communication networks were upgraded to maintain connectivity during future emergencies. Lessons from leadership experiences inform frameworks for managing complex disaster scenarios. Strong local governance remains essential for successful disaster preparedness and ecological protection. 14. Community resilience and adaptation. Despite the devastation, communities demonstrated remarkable resilience and adaptability. Residents rebuilt homes and livelihoods while integrating lessons from the flood experience. Traditional knowledge and practices aided in adapting agricultural and land use methods. Community networks provided emotional support and practical assistance during recovery. Local innovation led to development of flood-resistant housing and infrastructure solutions. Education programs fostered disaster awareness and preparedness for future emergencies. Collective action promoted environmental stewardship and sustainable resource management. Volunteer groups organized regular habitat restoration and wildlife monitoring activities. Youth engagement in conservation efforts inspired hope and strengthened community bonds. Efforts to diversify income sources reduced economic vulnerability to natural disasters. Partnerships with non-governmental organizations and government agencies increased access to technical and financial aid. Resilient communities advocated for improved services and infrastructure investments. Adaptation strategies included creating early warning systems and evacuation plans. Cultural events celebrated community strength and honored those affected by the crisis. Mental health initiatives supported coping with trauma and fostering positive outlooks. Access to clean water and sanitation was prioritized to prevent disease outbreaks post-flood. Environmental restoration projects involved local participation, ensuring relevance and sustainability. Resilience planning emphasized coexistence with wildlife to reduce future human-animal conflicts. Community-led monitoring contributed valuable data for environmental management. Building resilience ensured communities are better prepared to face changing climate realities. 15. International aid and partnerships. The crisis attracted international attention, resulting in aid from global conservation organizations. Donations funded emergency response, wildlife rehabilitation, and habitat restoration projects. Expert teams from abroad provided training in disaster wildlife management and veterinary care. Technology transfers improved monitoring capabilities and rescue operations efficiency. Collaborative research projects enhanced understanding of flood impacts on ecosystems and wildlife. International non-governmental organizations supported capacity building for local responders and community leaders. Global media coverage raised awareness and inspired widespread public support and fundraising. Partnerships fostered exchange of best practices in integrating disaster response with conservation. Cross-border cooperation was important given the Zambezi River basin spans several countries. International funding facilitated long-term projects focused on climate adaptation and ecosystem resilience. Knowledge-sharing forums connected stakeholders working on similar challenges worldwide. Support extended to community development programs promoting sustainable livelihoods. Donor agencies prioritized projects with measurable conservation and social impact outcomes. International collaboration strengthened policy frameworks addressing disaster and biodiversity issues. Partnerships empowered local institutions to lead ongoing recovery and conservation initiatives. Funding mechanisms were established to ensure rapid response to future environmental emergencies. Joint efforts emphasized a holistic approach integrating human welfare and environmental health. The global community's response highlighted the interconnectedness of ecological crises. International solidarity boosted morale and resources essential for sustained recovery efforts. Continued partnerships will be crucial to safeguarding the Zambezi ecosystem and communities. 16. Challenges in coordinating rescue efforts. Complex terrain and rapidly changing flood conditions hindered rescue team movements and logistics. Communication breakdowns delayed information sharing between field teams and command centers. Limited resources and personnel stretched thin across multiple simultaneous emergencies. Differing priorities between human rescue and wildlife conservation created coordination challenges. Unpredictable lion behavior required flexible strategies and constant adaptation by responders. Safety concerns for rescue workers slowed operations in hazardous flood and wildlife environments. Volunteer coordination demanded clear leadership and effective training to avoid operational confusion. Interagency collaboration required harmonizing protocols and responsibilities among diverse teams. Resource allocation debates occasionally delayed deployment of critical equipment and supplies. Language barriers and cultural differences sometimes complicated community engagement efforts. Technology limitations affected real-time tracking and rapid response capabilities in remote areas. Logistical constraints impacted supply chains for veterinary medicines and rescue gear. Managing public expectations amid uncertainty was essential to maintain trust and cooperation. Challenges prompted development of improved disaster response frameworks post-crisis. Joint exercises and simulations planned to enhance future emergency preparedness and coordination. Incorporating lessons learned strengthened standard operating procedures and communication channels. Investment in training and infrastructure was prioritized to overcome identified weaknesses. Multidisciplinary approaches were adopted to integrate ecological, social, and logistical needs. Effective coordination remains a cornerstone for managing complex emergencies involving wildlife. Ongoing efforts aim to build resilience into systems handling simultaneous human and animal crises. 17. Media coverage and public perception. The dramatic story of escaped lions captured global media attention and public imagination. News outlets highlighted the danger to humans while also portraying the plight of the lions. Photographs and videos shared widely increased awareness of the flood scale and impact. Media coverage spurred donations and volunteer recruitment for rescue and rehabilitation efforts. Sensationalism at times caused panic, requiring balanced reporting and official clarifications. Public debates emerged on priorities between human safety and wildlife protection in disaster zones. Documentaries and feature stories documented the crisis and ongoing recovery efforts. Social media platforms played a vital role in disseminating timely information and safety warnings. Positive coverage emphasized community resilience and successful rescue stories to inspire hope. Media engagement with experts helped educate audiences on coexistence and conservation. Coverage also raised important questions about climate change and its role in extreme weather. Public perception influenced policymaking and funding allocation for disaster preparedness. Journalists faced challenges in accessing remote areas and verifying information amidst chaos. Responsible reporting contributed to a more informed and empathetic response from the public. Media campaigns continued post-crisis to maintain momentum for habitat restoration projects. Stories of individual lions and affected families personalized the broader environmental issues. Collaboration between media and conservation groups ensured accuracy and constructive messaging. Media spotlight helped foster global solidarity and awareness for the Zambezi region's plight. Balanced narrative supported efforts to reduce fear and promote understanding among communities. Long-term media engagement remains essential to keep conservation challenges in public focus. 18. The role of technology in disaster response. Use of drones allowed rapid aerial assessment of flood extent and wildlife movements. Satellite imagery provided up-to-date data on river levels and habitat damage over large areas. GPS collars helped track escaped lions, enabling targeted rescue and monitoring. Mobile communication platforms facilitated coordination among rescue teams and volunteers. Real-time data feeds improved decision-making and resource allocation during the crisis. Technology enabled mapping of safe zones and corridors for both humans and animals. Early warning systems integrated weather forecasts with hydrological models to predict floods. Digital databases compiled animal health records to assist veterinary teams in care planning. Social media monitoring helped detect emerging incidents and community concerns quickly. Mobile apps engaged local residents in reporting sightings and hazards, enhancing situational awareness. Technology reduced risks to responders by identifying dangerous flood-affected areas in advance. Advancements in medical technology improved diagnostics and treatment for injured wildlife. Data analytics supported evaluation of response effectiveness and identification of gaps. Remote sensing contributed to long-term environmental monitoring and habitat restoration planning. Technology partnerships connected local teams with global experts for real-time advice and support. Investing in innovative tools strengthened overall disaster preparedness and conservation capacity. Digital communication platforms ensured transparent and timely updates to stakeholders and the public. Technology integration remains a priority for managing increasingly frequent and complex emergencies. Training responders to effectively use technology enhances overall disaster resilience. Technological innovation continues to transform approaches to wildlife and human disaster management. 19. Cultural significance of lions in the region. Lions hold deep cultural and spiritual importance for many communities along the Zambezi. They are often seen as symbols of strength, leadership, and natural heritage in local traditions. Folklore and storytelling highlight the relationship between humans and lions over centuries. The escape event challenged perceptions, balancing reverence with concerns for safety. Community ceremonies and rituals often honor lions and other key wildlife species. Conservation efforts incorporate respect for cultural values to foster local support. Educational programs link traditional knowledge with modern conservation science. Artistic expressions celebrate lions, reinforcing their iconic status and regional identity. Understanding cultural connections helps design culturally sensitive disaster response strategies. Engaging elders and cultural leaders strengthens communication and cooperation during crises. Lions feature prominently in tourism marketing, blending natural beauty with cultural heritage. Respecting cultural significance aids in resolving human-wildlife conflicts peacefully. Community pride in lions motivates grassroots conservation initiatives and habitat protection. Cultural narratives inform sustainable coexistence practices and wildlife stewardship. Traditional festivals often include wildlife themes, raising awareness among younger generations. Incorporating culture into conservation enhances effectiveness and community ownership. The crisis prompted renewed reflection on humans' role as caretakers of natural heritage. Balancing cultural reverence with practical safety measures is key to harmonious coexistence. Celebrating lions as part of cultural heritage fosters enduring commitment to their protection. The cultural bond with lions remains a powerful force for conservation and regional unity. 20. Preparing for future disasters. The Zambezi flood and lion escape exposed vulnerabilities that must be addressed urgently. Strengthening early warning systems can save lives and reduce damage in future floods. Infrastructure must be designed to withstand extreme weather and protect both humans and wildlife. Comprehensive disaster preparedness plans should integrate ecological and social considerations. Training programs for responders need regular updates based on lessons learned from recent crises. Community education should focus on risk awareness, evacuation procedures, and wildlife safety. Investment in research will improve understanding of climate change impacts on flood frequency. Establishing wildlife emergency shelters and protocols can minimize escape risks during disasters. Interagency cooperation frameworks ensure coordinated and effective disaster responses. Funding mechanisms must guarantee rapid mobilization of resources when emergencies arise. Public-private partnerships can support innovation and infrastructure improvements for resilience. Scenario-based drills prepare communities and responders for realistic emergency situations. Building social capital enhances community trust and collaboration in disaster response. Policies should incentivize sustainable land management to reduce flood risk and habitat loss. Monitoring and evaluation systems track progress and identify emerging vulnerabilities. Technology deployment should be expanded to enhance real-time information sharing. Integrating traditional ecological knowledge strengthens disaster risk reduction strategies. Mental health support services should be embedded in disaster preparedness and recovery. The Zambezi experience offers critical insights to build adaptive capacity for future crises. Proactive preparation is essential to protect human and wildlife populations from recurring disasters. The Zambezi flood and lion escape left a trail of destruction and fear in the affected regions. Communities rebuilt their lives while learning to coexist with the powerful wildlife around them. Conservation efforts adapted to new challenges posed by changing climates and natural disasters. The event serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between humans and the wild they inhabit. Like this video and subscribe for more real stories that show the strength of nature and people. Share your thoughts on wildlife safety and disaster response in the comments below to join in. Thanks for watching and standing with us as we uncover nature's most intense moments of survival.